Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Culinary Scene Kitchen here at Roth Living in Denver, Colorado. My name is Ben Davis. I am executive chef here at the Roth Living showroom in Denver, welcoming you to this introduction to the Wolf Convection Steam Oven. Really a remarkable appliance that I think you're going to want to know about as you move forward in planning your kitchen remodel or redesign, or perhaps you're designing from the studs up and you would like to include this appliance in your kitchen suite. We're here to teach you just about everything we can in the next hour or so that you'll know as much as possible when you go out to make that decision on settling on your kitchen appliances. So a couple of housekeeping items before we get started here today. The link that you used today to attend this live streaming event will also be a link that will take you in the future to a recorded version of this exact class. So should you need to return to refresh your memory on something, or perhaps just clarify something a little bit more deeply, just use the same link that you used to attend today's class and it'll take you to a recorded version. Secondly, if you have a question, and I hope there are lots of questions today because we want to make sure that we get all of them answered for you today so that you may not need to make a trip into your local Roth Living showroom to preview these appliances. But if you do have a question, please use that chat feature on your YouTube live screen. Chef Gil is behind the screen. He will relay those questions to me directly, and we'll try to get them answered for you as we are going through today's presentation. So just make sure you have those questions, type them in so we can get them answered. I'll make sure I repeat the question so you know it's your question that's being answered as well. And then last but not least, if you have not had the opportunity or been able to make the time to attend one of our Roth Living showrooms around the greater Midwest and Rocky Mountains, I would encourage you to do so. It's really impressive not only to see these appliances live and in person, but also you can get all your design and little nuanced questions answered by one of our showroom consultants or one of the showroom chefs. So it's always a good idea to make that appointment, spend an hour or two with our consultants, kind of settling on all of that. It can really help direct you in a lot of different ways, and you can preview everything live. I think it's really important. So if you haven't had a chance to do that and you are still out there considering what appliances you might put in your kitchen, your dream kitchen, then please make sure you make an appointment at one of our showrooms to meet with those consultants. So, all right, so let's talk a little bit about the convection steam oven, but I think in many ways a picture is really worth 1,000 words. So right now, here on the back wall, we have our convection steam oven churning away. We're doing a little bit of glazed pork belly, so I just want to show you just one of the aspects that this oven brings to the table. You can see our beautifully cooked pork belly. We actually cooked this pork belly in the convection steam oven at a nice low temperature using steam to soften and accelerate the cooking. We then sliced it, added a little more glaze, and now we've got it nice and crispy, and it's there ready to go to make our little bao buns. So that's one aspect of the oven that we're going to be discussing today, is that you can use it just like a convection oven. The beauty of the Wolf Convection Steam Oven is that it can be not only a convection oven, but a steamer, and then a combination of both, right? But even more exciting is that we head into 2023. We are on the verge of introducing, or actually we have introduced, and we will be starting to roll these ovens out to the public here in the next few months, the next generation of Wolf Convection Steam Ovens. Now, they haven't come to our showrooms yet, but we have a wonderful video that was produced there at Sub-Zero that I'd like to show you now, just so you can get a little taste of what the new features on the latest Wolf Convection Steam Oven bring to the table. So let's have a look at that now, and then we'll be right back to finish up in the kitchen.
Precise, intuitive cooking has never been easier. With Wolf's next generation of convection steam ovens, this larger 8-inch full-color touchscreen allows more on-screen information to guide you through various modes and features. And these menu tiles can be organized with just a touch. Simply drag and drop in whatever order you prefer. Now all your favorite settings are right at your fingertips. Any gourmet or recipe mode can easily be customized with a few simple steps. The oven can store up to 50 personalized favorites, The chef-tested modes and personalized options help you create any delicious dish you can imagine.
I'm Chef Joel, welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm excited to share with you a few recipes that I've come up with that I think really show the new features and benefits of our convection steam oven. So for our first recipe, we're gonna roast some potatoes that we just harvested from the Harvest Haven garden and add some broccoli as well. I love roasted potatoes because I think it's one of the best things to show how superheated steam browns and makes a beautiful flavor and texture. All right, now we're gonna set the oven up to roast our potatoes. So we're gonna select Gourmet, and we're gonna scroll down to Sides. We'll select that, Potatoes, and then we wanna roast our potatoes, so we'll scroll down a little bit here and find the roast potatoes. And then there we are, all ready to go. So we'll push Set, and then we'll push Start, put the potatoes in, and they will be roasted beautifully. All right, so we're gonna get our oven ready to roast our tomatoes and garlic and onions for our tomato sauce. So we wake the screen up, we're gonna touch Convection, and choose Convection Steam. And then from here, we're gonna set our temperature. So we'll touch the temperature, 375, set, and we're gonna push Start. And then from there, we're gonna wait for the oven to preheat. You can see this nice flame icon that's letting me know where we're at in that process. Now, overall, I absolutely love how easy and simple it is to use this new touchscreen interface. So the tomatoes have been roasting on convection steam, 375 degrees for about 15 minutes. We're just gonna blend this up and serve it with a simple pasta. It's a wonderful summer dish. All right, so now I'm going to show you how to make a simple puff pastry shell. I absolutely love doing this because you can go to your local market, your store, whatever seasonal fruit you find, you can just put in. You have a beautiful, simple, elegant dessert. So we're going to start off with our puff pastry. Now we're going to set the oven up to bake our puff pastry shells. And what we're gonna do here is we're actually gonna program this and we're gonna save it as a favorite. So we're gonna pick Convection, we're gonna go to Convection Steam, and then from here we're gonna set the temperature that we want, which will be 375 degrees. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna touch the heart here. We're gonna clear that out by pushing the X, and we're just gonna name this Puff. And we'll make a space here and P, so Puff P, there we go. We'll set that. And then if you can see here, now we want to bake our puff pastry. We'll just touch that and start it. And you can see we have convection steam set to 375 degrees, perfect for cooking our puff pastry.
The improved and expanded line now features a first-ever plumbed option for extended steam time. Or choose unplumbed for a perfect fit anywhere. The new 30-inch models feature Wolf's largest steam cavity to date, spanning the entire width of the unit. Partnered with dual convection for perfectly even cooking throughout. Both the 24-inch and 30-inch models incorporate 3 full extension rack positions and 1 standard position for more cooking flexibility. The 1,750-watt broil element promises perfectly even browning, and enhanced LED lighting fully illuminates the oven cavity. Contemporary models incorporate one-touch, handleless doors for a sleek, modern look. And the entire line has been fine-tuned to seamlessly match other products in the Wolf family. Versatile, precise, and easy to use, the Wolf Convection Steam Oven takes cooking perfection to the next level.
Great. All right, everyone. I hope that video gave you a little bit of inspiration about our new model of convection steam oven. And certainly, as we go through today's presentation, we can address questions relating directly to the convection steam oven, the new generation of convection steam ovens. But the beauty is that internally, both that oven and the oven behind me on the wall function in exactly the same ways. There's a little bit of an upgrade to the interface and maybe some upgrades to the convection system itself, but in many, many, many cases, both of these ovens are exactly the same. So as we go through the workings of today's convection steam oven, you know that that will apply to that future generation of convection steam oven as well, right? So let's just talk a little bit about how a convection steam oven came to be. This is not a technology that is old or in many cases it's fairly new in the United States. It's definitely new in a residential setting, but it's been around in commercial applications for many, many, many decades, where chefs and different caterers have used them to prepare large banquet-style meals in a very precise and exacting way, so they can get a beautiful product all at the same time using a single appliance. And that was the invention of combination steam ovens. In other words, an oven that can both produce dry air and warm, humid air to use both of the benefits of those two heat sources to cook the food in a much more expedient, but also in a better way, right? So you've already seen we've browned up our char siu pork belly, so you can see that it can make something nice and crispy using dry air. But how does the steam work in your Wolf convection steam oven? Well, it's basically provided through a reservoir system in the oven. Our model is currently not a plumbed model, but the new generation of convection steam ovens can be plumbed. You can choose to plumb it directly into a water line. That will require a drain line as well. But in both cases, they're going to work exactly the same. But currently, it's a reservoir system, and you simply fill the reservoir, which is behind this panel, with water from your tap. Once that water is inserted into the oven, now it can make steam and control the amount of humidity that is actually in your oven cavity. Now, what are the benefits of steam? Well, obviously the most notable one is going to be the additional moisture that is provided when we're cooking with steam. Regardless of the percentage of humidity that's going to be in the oven, anywhere there's going to be steam present, obviously you're going to get that beneficial moisture. But the moisture also functions in a very important way as well in terms of accelerating the cooking process. And best example of that would be is that all of you know that if you're baking something in your oven at home at 425 degrees, you're baking a batch of biscuits or something like that, all you need to do is protect your hand while you reach into the oven to remove that item from the oven, because you know that even 425 degrees will do you no harm as you reach into the oven to remove that item from the oven. However, if you have a tea kettle on the stove and it is boiling rapidly and it's emitting its stream of steam from its nozzle, you are very hesitant to place your arm in that stream of steam because you are very likely to be scalded. Well, we know that water boils at a maximum temperature of 212 degrees. If you live here in Colorado, it boils at a much lower temperature, but still, you know that that will be very negatively impactful on your skin. Well, 212, 425 in the oven. It's a very wide temperature gap, but we know that the steam is now transferring heat, right? Transferring that energy much more efficiently. So any place that we can use steam in the oven to do some cooking, we're going to cook faster and we're going to add moisture, both of which are going to be beneficial in the long run. And that's exactly how a convection steam oven functions, by being able to provide steam when you want it, or in the case of not needing it, when you're doing something where you require no steam, like crisping the outside of our pork belly, or perhaps you're baking a batch of cookies or something like that. You may want to just use plain convection. The beauty of the Wolf convection steam oven is then it becomes that secondary oven that you may need in your kitchen when you're doing a larger preparation. But I will tell you right now that after a few weeks of using this oven, it will be your go-to oven 80% of the time. The only thing that's really going to stop you from using it is going to be size, in terms of, can I fit a 25-pound turkey in my convection steam oven? Unlikely. But you'll be able to use it for just about everything else. So, again, we've seen how we can use as plain convection. It can also then just be a steamer, right? So just like you would create a steamer effect on your stove by using a pot of simmering water and perhaps a basket or some sort of insert to steam vegetables, to steam seafood, whatever it might be, this oven functions in exactly the same way as a steamer module. So if you need to do some prep, you just simply throw the vegetables into the oven, use a feature in there to steam, and then all of a sudden you've got beautifully steamed vegetables in without having to wait for water to boil or anything like that, and it's very easy to clean up after that. So it's really nice to have that steam on demand whenever you need it, right? Obviously, we've talked a little bit about the dry air, the pure convection mode, using for our char siu pork belly. But now it's the modes that really make a difference in this oven, which are the combination modes. Those combination modes, convection steam, convection humid, right, are all modes that use both dry air and steam in different ways in order to accomplish the best results depending on what it is you're cooking. Convection steam gives you about 65% humidity in the oven, which is not obviously as full a humid environment as pure steam, but by having just that 65%, now you're getting the impact of steam while still taking the oven to temperatures in excess of 440 degrees, which will do a lot of browning and a lot of crisping when that time comes, right? So I'm just gonna reheat something in here right now as it's warming up. I've got my bao buns in here that we baked them once, but now we're going to reheat them quickly so we can serve them. That's one of the features on this oven that is remarkable in terms of its reheating capabilities. You know, many of you know you're going to reheat in a microwave. Oftentimes you get sort of spotty, uneven results. But in the convection steam oven now, you can use steam to refresh and rehydrate food, and then dry air at a low temperature, 250, something like that, in order to refresh and reheat the food. So all of it happens at the same time without drying the food out. So as we open, we might see a little bit of steam emitted from the oven, but we can feel our buns getting nice and soft, again, nice and warm, so that when we serve them, they're going to be beautifully reheated. And this process that we're using right now, this auto reheat process, is one of the main features that I think you're really going to love about a Wolf convection steam oven. Because what it does is it uses its sensors in the oven to basically determine temperature, cooking mode in terms of how much steam is added to the oven if it's necessary, right? And then it will provide you with the cooking time or reheating time without you having to make any calculations telling the oven how much weight you've added, how many plates you've added, anything like that. It's simply programmed to know how to calculate the approximate time it will take to reheat something based on when you inserted it into the oven and told it what you need to tell it. So it's really a remarkable feature that allows you to be confident about reheating 3 or 4 plates simultaneously. As you reheat, again, steam injected first, then that warmer air, or not very superheated air, to reheat that plate very evenly and completely. You don't get a half heated plate. Everything is heated very evenly. And so we'll see our buns come out here in just a second. But that reheating feature, I will tell you right now, as part of this oven, is going to be something you're really going to be thankful for, because you'll never have to worry about whether or not you're going to be reheating evenly and consistently. And then obviously you can do multiple plates at once. It really does make a huge difference. So that's just one of those other combination features. The reheating feature is really a wonderful feature on this oven. Okay? Then the last mode that people are going to use every once in a while, if they're really into some really kind of gourmet style cooking, is that sous vide mode. Anybody who's into sous vide cooking can explore that using their convection steam oven, because it can function much the same way that an immersion blender circulator would work on your countertop. So there we go. We've just got our notification that our buns have been reheated, so we can slide those out and see our nicely reheated buns right here. So let's just make a couple of these as we're going through. But again, that sous vide mode is really fun. If you've had any time to experiment with it, it's a really fun way to cook. You can do lots of really fun preparations with it. So we've got a little bit of our slaw here as well. So let's just put these out so you can see how nice these are to have make this quick char siu. So anyway, we're back to that that sous vide mode. Again, we could cook our pork belly sous vide should we choose to as well. That's a great way to slow cook things. But again, it's just one of those modes. But the mode that I think is a lot of fun too is, if we look at our oven, we talk a little bit about those automated modes that allow us to reheat in a very automated way, is a feature that is pretty much found on almost all Wolf ovens, and that is that gourmet feature. And what is that gourmet feature? That gourmet feature is all about having lots of pre-programmed items in the oven, right? So that if you're feeling a little unsure about using the oven, now you can use the gourmet feature to help kind of educate yourself, but also get a lot of things cooked, because it is a great feature. And again, it shows up on all of our formats of ovens, not just the convection steam oven, but in convection steam oven, it is one of those items that I think you're going to really appreciate, because it's going to make it very easy to do a lot of different cooking preparations that you don't have to look up a recipe for, because the oven will walk you through step by step by step, so that you can see exactly how to prepare that item, or how many ways the oven knows how to prepare a different item. So it's really a fun cooking benefit in your oven. So I'm just going to put one more on here so you can see how nice these look. Right? Okay, so again, this oven, you can see the interface here, right? All the controls located in one place. Again, you have the ability to choose how the oven will function, right? How you're going to particularly cook something, whether you want to use steam or you don't want to use steam. You'll be able to program that using a quick start menu, which is I like to call the manual transmission, right, on the oven, where you do all the decision making and the oven does what you tell it. Or again, you have that gourmet feature, which basically you tell the oven what you want to cook and the oven tells you if it knows how to cook it, and then you just follow the instructions on screen, right? So quick tour of the oven as we open it up, right? You can see this oven is a 30-inch oven presentation. However, the cavity of the oven is simply only 24 inches wide, but we're trimming it to match the oven below it, so it lines up very nicely. We can do that with all styles of Wolf appliances, whether you're having a transitional, professional, or contemporary look to your kitchen. We can trim your convection steam oven to line up seamlessly with the appliance that's mounted below it or next to it, whatever you might like. But you can see it's just a 24-inch cavity on this oven. On the newer version of the oven, we are looking at expanding that cavity, so you'll have a choice between a 24 or 30-inch wide cavity. That 30-inch wide cavity will give you a lot of extra room to work in, so you may be able to fit in that 24-inch or just 25-pound turkey. Oh, have our first question. So here we go. Chef Gill. Oh, fantastic. So Carol is asking about what are some of the things that we can cook in the gourmet mode? And this is a great question, because in the Wolf convection steam oven, in the gourmet mode, there are over 150 different cooking processes that you can take advantage of. Everything from very simple preparations like steaming spinach or broccoli or asparagus, and that would simply be something you would access by touching the gourmet feature on this, and then you get a list of categories: vegetables, meat, poultry, seafood, pizza, you name it, right? And walk through that, right? It'll step by step, it'll tell you how it's going to cook it, the temperature at which it will cook it, and how long it will cook it for. Should you be needing to use the temperature probe that comes with your convection steam oven, it will also help you set the correct probe temperature so that you get a perfect medium rare or a perfectly braised pork shoulder. Whatever you might be cooking, the probe will help you get to that exact internal temperature seamlessly integrated into the oven. So it really does make it great. So again, not just vegetables, seafood, meats, slow roasting techniques, right? Bread baking techniques. I know a lot of people are probably interested in a steam oven because of the ability to add steam into the oven cavity while baking a loaf of bread, right? This oven has a number of different ways with which you can use to bake a loaf of bread, regardless of which style of bread you're making. We can program the oven so that it gives you the proper amount of steam to create the proper amount of crust and style of crust for the type of bread that you are making. So there's all of those as well. And then we go into some of the more esoteric preparations, you might say. There's some lovely dessert preparations in here, lots of baked goods. You can use the convection steam oven to help process and can fruits, vegetables, jams, jellies, things like that. If you're used to doing that by dipping your hand in boiling water to retrieve jars from that pot to do the processing, the convection steam oven can easily supplement that by replacing that process for you. So it's a great feature as well. So that gourmet feature, again, over 150 different items. They just cover a real breadth of all the cooking that you could want to do, and it's really remarkable. You know, one I really should mention to everybody, because I think, you know, one of the beauties of this oven and what it'll do is it allows you, through its sophisticated technology, to basically program the oven so that the main dish at your Saturday night dinner party, or maybe it's a holiday festivities or something like that, where you want to make sure that that main dish, that roast, that centerpiece of your meal is going to come out at the exact moment to the exact degree of doneness that you would desire, right? So that you can plan everything else around that. Because we all know, right? People will forgive you if maybe the mashed potatoes are a little lumpier this year than they were last year. Or maybe, you know, you didn't get the green bean casserole quite, the seasoning was a little bit off. They'll forgive you for that. But if you overcook the roast or you dry out something and it's really sort of the hallmark of the entire event, you're going to remember that, right? So with the convection steam oven, you have the ability, using your temperature probe and using very particular modes within that gourmet setting, to program the oven so that your roast, your prime rib, your beef tenderloin, whatever it might be, comes out at the exact minute that you would like to serve it onto your table, at the exact degree of doneness that you would choose it to be served at, whether you like medium rare, medium, whatever it might be, right? It'll come out at that exact moment, and you don't even need to build in any resting time because the oven will rest it for you. So every time you remove it and take it out and place it on the serving platter, all you need to do is slice and serve. There is no waiting. Everything else can be timed around it. And should you be a little behind schedule because, well, perhaps somebody was late in arriving and you didn't want to start the meal until they got there, if you leave that roast inserted in the oven with probe attached to the roast and just leave it closed in the oven, it will hold it for you at that exact temperature that you asked it to be cooked to for an indefinite period of time. So now you have the grace to have a little wiggle room there so that you can actually make sure that everybody is seated at the same time and you're not delaying anything, but your roast is not ruined. You're not overcooking it. You're not drying it out. The convection steam oven can do that for you to the exact minute and then extend it should you need it to without overcooking that roast. So again, something none of our other ovens can do, the convection steam oven can do in using that, right? So again, that's because of that technology with the steam and the dry air together. We can cook at a much lower temperature using moisture and get a beautifully roasted item, whatever it might be, without having the worries of, is it going to overcook? Is it going to dry out? Any of those things. It's not going to happen when using the convection steam oven, not just because of its internal technology, but because of the way you can program it so that it comes out at that exact fashion. So again, those gourmet features are extensive, and I would encourage everybody, should you decide to put a convection steam oven in your kitchen, to make sure that you use them, because they really do make a difference, and they really do help educate you about how this oven functions, right? So again, it's a 30-inch trim here, 24-inch cavity. We can make it look like whatever you want, right? Again, the new version will come with a plumbed version available should you not wish to have the reservoir. However, I like having the reservoir. I don't feel the need for the plumbed version. In many cases, I've never really wanted for one. I mean, there's been very, very, very rare occasions where I'm having to use the oven for extensive amounts of time, perhaps like a long sous videing process or something like that, where I've actually run out of water and needed to refill it sort of midstream. It doesn't really happen that often, so I don't always feel the need that a plumbed version would have been beneficial to me, but I can see how some people would like not having to worry about having to refill their reservoir, so that plumbed version will be available to you if you'd like to do that, right? And they'll come in all styles, both sizes. Okay, so you can do that as we're going forward. Again, the big change for the new one is going to be that interface that you saw in the video, where instead of having these etched symbols and words on the panel that you would use to control, on the new one is 100% touchscreen controlled, and I think that will make it a little more intuitive for many people to use, but still that internal functioning is going to be exactly the same. You're still going to have the same number of modes for cooking in. It's still going to generate the heat and the humidity in exactly the same way, so it will continue to cook in the same way as well. Gil, we have another question.
Carol would like to know what percentage of the time do you use your convection steam oven compared to other ovens?
Okay, so another really good question from Carol asking about what would be the percentage that we would say here in the showroom that we would use a convection steam oven versus a traditional format convection oven. Again, I would say that in the big picture, we're probably using our convection steam oven a majority of the time. I would say 60 to 75% of the time we're using our convection steam oven here in the showroom. A lot of the things that prevent you from using the convection steam oven, again, are if you want to bake on more than 2 racks simultaneously. With the convection system in the larger format ovens, a little more sophisticated, a little more volume on those trays, so you can do more at once. But if you're, say, just preparing a menu at home for 2 to 4 people, you can accomplish everything in the convection steam oven very easily, very quickly, mostly because in most cases, the convection steam oven requires no preheating. There's very rare times when you're going to need to preheat this oven prior to inserting the food. This is obviously going to save you time on the front end, so you're not having to wait for that preheat to take place. So you're going to just go right into the oven, and that's going to accelerate that cooking just a little bit more, because that plus the steam that is generated by the oven are going to really make that oven perform very, very quickly. So you're saving some time. So a lot of times from a time-saving perspective, you're going to want to use the convection steam oven, again, because you are not having that preheat period prior to the oven. And when you do need to preheat it, it is literally 5 minutes to 350, 375 degrees. So very quick to preheat as well. Okay? So again, we talked a little bit about just its design. You can see the rack system on the inside. The oven comes with its own set of racks. You can't simply use any baking sheet that you might in a traditional oven. You'll need to use the racks that come supplied with the oven. In the current model, you get 4 racks. You get a perforated tray like this. You also get a solid stainless steel tray like that. And then you'll get 2 wire racks, which are obviously ideal for using your own baking vessels. And unlike a microwave, there is no prohibition as to what type of vessel you place in the oven. Obviously, don't want to put a lot of plastic in there at high temperatures, but if you've got a nice cast iron braising dish, or perhaps you've got some nice ceramic pieces, all of those are perfectly safe and acceptable in the convection steam oven. So you don't have to worry about what you're putting into the oven in terms of doing your baking. On the new model, on the model that is being released this year, they will also include an additional tray. So you'll actually get 3 trays in addition to the 2 racks with your oven. And that 3rd tray is a porcelain enameled tray, a solid tray, ideal for roasting when you want to get a little darker color on the outside of your food or vegetables, whatever you might be using. That darker surface helps brown things just a little bit more completely. I also think it's a little easier to maintain, to be quite frank with you. But you'll get one of those as well on the new model of convection steam oven. So you'll actually get 5 pieces to use inside the oven. And they are specific to the convection steam oven. Now, with that 30-inch model that is being released this year, you'll be able to use a traditional baking sheet on the wire racks because it is a wider cavity. Obviously, it's deep enough for that, so you'll be able to use a traditional baking sheet in that oven as well. So just remember, when you are getting that, you don't need to buy special pans. It all comes included with the oven itself. Okay? So again, all that's there. Again, great cookbooks, great support, not only at the Sub-Zero website, but here at Roth Living. We have a great catalog of recipes and use and care videos designed specifically for the convection steam oven. So if you're feeling a little intimidated, like, I'm not sure, it's kind of a new technology, I'm not sure how I'm going to cook in that. Really, when you're thinking about it, it's still an oven. We're still talking about convection, circulated air. We're just adding the element of steam. What's that going to do? Well, again, it's going to accelerate cooking times. It's going to add that more moisture. So in many cases, the adjustments that you need to make to a recipe are fairly minimal. You don't need to go through a lot of hoops and recalculating recipes when using the convection steam oven. You can almost always rely on the fact that things will be done a little bit faster and they're going to be a little more moist when they come out. So it's really not a hard adaptation when it comes to using this oven as you move forward. And always remember that because you live here and may purchase through the Roth network of dealers here in our territory, we offer not only training here on this culinary scene platform, but also live classes in the showrooms. If you are in the proximity of one of our 5 showrooms, you can certainly make that appointment to come in and sit through one of those experiential classes where you learn all the use and care, all the tips and tricks from the various chefs about how to use this and take care of this item. And and speaking of taking care of it, one of the beauties of a convection steam oven is that steam helps keep the oven clean, right? There is not technically a self-cleaning mode in a steam oven because the steam is doing a lot of that heavy lifting for you while you're using it. So the steam is not only helping to cook the food, to moisturize the food, but it's also keeping those walls just a little bit cleaner, a little bit more grease-free. So that means that when it comes time to do a deep cleaning on the oven, that deep cleaning lasts about 5 minutes, and it's very, very quick, and you don't need any harsh chemicals. You simply need, the appropriate scrubbing device and a mild cleanser, something that is readily available to everyone. You're not going to have to go through a lot of craziness to get your oven clean. And quick tip for all of you who are looking and seeing how this is mounted on the wall, and you can see it's mounted, it's just below about 65 inches in height at the top of the oven, right? And you're thinking to yourself, well, I'm not the tallest person in the world. How am I going to clean the back of the oven? That's going to be a really hard thing because apparently mounting it at that height is appropriate. And it is appropriate to mount it at this height because really you don't want to mount it too low, because when you do open that oven door, and if you're using steam, you don't really want a face full of steam as you're opening the oven door. I think it's harder to clean when it's mounted lower, so I really do encourage you to mount it at a height somewhat similar to where we have it here in the studio. But you're thinking, I'm not that tall, how am I going to clean the back of the oven? It's going to get all dirty, how am I going to clean it? This is a great trick on the convection steam oven. You can actually, it's the only oven that we make that you can do this and remove the oven door very easily, very completely, very safely, and then return it to the front of the oven and then clip it back in place. So obviously with the oven door, very easy for you to reach the back of the oven to do any cleaning that might be necessary. But like I said, it is a very quick and easy process, something you'll probably only have to complete maybe once or twice every month. It's not going to build up a lot of grease and dirt on the oven walls. It's very, very easy to maintain. Simple descaling every once in a while. The oven will walk you through it again, step by step, telling you exactly when it needs to be descaled. Should the oven need to be descaled, you can skip it should you need to. So if you're in the middle of preparing an exquisite meal and all of a sudden your oven gives you the message, needs to be descaled, you can say, no, not now, I'll do it later. That's one of the beauties of our oven, is that it allows you to skip that process until you have the time to do it and not in the middle of your preparation. So again, very, very user-friendly in that respect. You're not being kind of bullied by the oven to only be able to use it when it says you can, right? So it makes it very, very easy to use. So it doesn't heat up your kitchen. That's one of the other nice benefits of it. Even at the highest temperatures, you really don't notice a lot of the heat coming off. It doesn't produce a lot of steam even when you open the door in a steaming process. So if you're concerned, that in your design you have some beautifully done cabinet work above your convection steam oven space. Don't worry, that cabinet work is going to be fine regardless of the materials that it's manufactured from. You're not going to damage it by simply opening the oven door and allowing a little bit of steam to come out. It's no more steam than might hit an oven cabinet or a cabinet door from, say, boiling water on the stove or something like that. So you don't have to worry about how you mount it. But I do recommend that if you do want to put one in your kitchen, put it up a little bit higher, makes it a little bit easier to use, obviously easier to clean. And I just kind of keep it in mind that you don't really want to be elevating your arms above your shoulders to take stuff out of the oven. So something like along this line is really nice because it's very easy to use the oven, even when you have something heavy in the oven as well. So again, this is a remarkable appliance. I think you're going to find that in your kitchen, once it's installed, it will become your go-to appliance, whether it's reheating some leftovers, whether it's a quick preparation of appetizers or hors d'oeuvres prior to a dinner party, or it's the whole roasted prime rib, standing rib roast, using your probe to that exact internal temperature so that you can be just sort of the star of the show, knowing that you've been able to prepare that amazing feast in such a clean and efficient manner, and the convection steam oven will really go a long way to helping you do that. It is the most versatile tool you can put into your arsenal. Remember, right now, currently, this appliance can only not do 3 things that it would take a microwave and a traditional oven and a steamer to replace, right? It can't pop your popcorn like a microwave. It can't reheat your coffee like a microwave. And it can't broil the tops of your French onion soup to make your cheese bubbly and crispy and delicious, right? Can't do those 3 things. But it can do everything else that those 3 other appliances can do. It can steam like a steamer. It can bake and roast and do all the great things that a convection oven can do. And it can do the reheating, the defrosting, and all of those little things that you might consider doing in a microwave. So if it's coming down to deciding, am I going to use that space in my kitchen for a microwave, or am I going to use that space in my kitchen for a steam oven? Just ask yourself, would something that is a true culinary tool, something that you're going to use on a day in, day out basis to make some really magnificent preparations, but also the very basic everyday tasks of reheating food or defrosting a couple pieces of chicken or whatever it might be, if you can see your way to an appliance doing all of those things, right, then I would argue you don't need a microwave because this will do everything there. And if it's the coffee thing then, or the popcorn thing, I can't help you with that. You're going to have to figure out a way to put a microwave in order to do those things. But for me and for my investment and my space in my kitchen, this is going to do so much more than any microwave can ever hope to do, and it'll do it better in across the board. There is no comparison in terms of how that works. So again, when you're considering that, I would definitely take that into account, that it is something in the big picture that is going to give you a lot more use for your investment dollar when you're talking about Wolf appliances. So unless we have any more questions, I want to thank everyone for joining us this afternoon. I hope this has been informative for you. Again, I cannot stress enough that if you need greater explanations, or you would like to see these appliances live and in person, to make that trip to one of our Ross showrooms, whether you're close to Minneapolis, Kansas City, St. Louis, Salt Lake, or even here in Denver, we are so happy to welcome you into our showrooms to be able to extol the virtues of these remarkable appliances, but then also show you the options that you have and help you figure out the best solutions for your current situation and future situations in your kitchen. So again, thank you so much for joining us. I look forward to seeing you here at the Culinary Scene again really, really soon. Thanks so much.